My name is Patrick Callahan. Right now my work is I work at a large production stone facility in Heber City, Utah, where we produce exteriors of buildings, walkways, pathways, temples, churches, synagogues. Well, the day started out, we were always behind on projects, and we started a new part of it that was the shower parts of it in a plastic material called corian. And as we were cutting and processing the product, we were cutting small pieces, and I had a guy in my shop that said he was nervous about it, and I told him to get out of the way, and I started doing it myself. So the material rose up on top of the saw blade, and then it fell down and shattered, and I fell onto the saw. So the saw blade cut here, it cut my thumb, broke it, and put it back here. So when I looked down, it was very dramatic. It was chopped up. I didn't know exactly what had happened, and I was afraid to look. So I put it underneath my arm and then sat down on a bucket. Being left-handed and not understanding how much damage was done, I was pretty much in shock that this might be the end for me in a way. It sounds ridiculous, but I didn't know at the time how much damage was done to my hand, and working with my hands and also being left-handed, I didn't know what was going to happen past there, so I was in a big panic. We drove to the nearest hospital, which was about 11 minutes away. By the time we got to the hospital, he had just dropped me off at the front door. I'd bled a lot down my side, and they didn't know exactly what had happened to me because I wasn't so coherent, still in shock. They actually at first thought maybe I'd been stabbed or shot because of all the blood that was down the side of me. The impact immediately was I couldn't work. And so I was relying on employees to run the business for me, and short term it was very hard financially. The first year we know that we lost right around $700,000 in just production. The doctor bill itself for the first 3 months was just over $125,000. The accident itself caused quite a bit of turmoil in the shop because I had a few guys that were already nervous about table saws, and they just didn't want to go back to that. I had the guy that actually took me to the hospital never came back. He never went back to the shop. When I first went back to work, I wanted to make sure that I could use the same saw and could basically get back on the horse, so to speak. My dad and one of my employees had cleaned it up quite a bit, but it was there was still blood stains on things, and there was kind of a big stain on the floor in the area. I did try to use the saw. I did use the saw that day, just enough to turn it on and make sure I could actually go back to work or have a future going back to work. And that was very difficult to go back and see it. Being left-handed, everything is different. You don't have the dexterity that you used to have. You don't have the grip strength, buttons, even goofy things like trimming your fingernails. It took a good year before I felt like I could function again, just on a basic day-to-day. The emotional impact for me was because I work with my hands, that was the hardest part, is I felt like I didn't have a future working with my hands. So even the smallest tasks became big challenges. I know this sounds ridiculous, but I'm not whole anymore. I had a part of me that through hurrying and bad choices, I don't have anymore, and I can't get it back. You know, I've had lots of people that go, well, the only reason you cut off your finger is because you weren't paying attention, right? but that's not the case. You know, the material's shattered. I may have been at fault for being too fast, but the material can break. Material's shattered. Saws can jam up. Knots in wood can be very dangerous. I came from a very large family business when I was younger, and I just couldn't imagine if by my choice and what I asked someone to do, that they got injured because I didn't have the proper equipment. I just didn't want to live with the fact that I could do this to someone else. That's the hardest thing. You know, it's minor things to think about a finger, but it will change your life. Everything about it.